Alrighty, well, hello and welcome to The Last Tape with me, Aaron Boyd, and
Tristan Claypool.
Well, today on The Last Tape, Tristan and I are going to be discussing, favorite books and sort of what that means and also why those are our favorite books.
You want to take it away to start? Well, you already said you're going to cheat and have multiple.
I'm always a cheater.
I've been thinking on this all week, and then you decide to cheat.
Well, to be fair, I did narrow it down to an author.
I probably can guess this, but I'll bite. Who is it?
No, take a guess.
Is it Dr. Seuss?
No, it's my boy Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah, that's what I expected.
The collected works. I can narrow it down to 2 books if that's better for you.
What are these 2 books?
Mother Night and The Sirens of Titan.
Those are 2 of them that I have not read, so I know nothing
really
about
good.
them.
Mother Night is about a Jewish man who was a Nazi propagandist, who then was an American spy.
That is an interesting life.
Who then later turned himself into to the Israelis after the war.
Why?
Read the book, or we'll get more in discussion on that later if you like. But that's the only Kurt Vonnegut book that has a moral that he knows about.
You could attribute morals to the other ones. But I guess that might be the only one he's written with a moral in mind.
That was the only one that he said he personally knew the moral of when he was writing it.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, because that means he recognizes the idea that people will attribute stuff that he never thought of.
Well, what's your favorite book?
I was thinking for a long time on this, all week I've been wondering, and I considered doing something really dumb, and that's all I brought to the table was green eggs and ham. It's about capitalism. I don't know, something like that. But no, I'd have to say it's probably Catch-22.
Yeah, Joseph Heller.
Yeah, just because it is just so crazy, and it's absurd, and the only person who actually was sane in the book was the one that everyone thought was crazy.
Or if they didn't think he was crazy, they thought he was really, really dumb.
And what's the difference?
Semantics.
I think the world as a whole is absurd, and the way to deal with it is just to kind of turn into the skid in that one.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Segways are those things where, you hold on to it and you stand on it and they're the big wheels and you
and you use those to get between discussion points.
Yeah, and that's a segue. Now you're good at segues.
Yeah.
Try one on for size.
Fair enough. Well, okay, what drew you to that book originally? And, have you read it multiple times? Or is this just a single read book?
It's definitely one I think that people could benefit from multiple reads. In fact, I tried to do it the other day, but someone beat me to it at the library at getting it. So I ended up getting Old Man in the Sea instead, which...
That was really sad.
Does he die at the end, or I don't...
It's sad.
I don't know. I didn't get any of, the allegorical meanings that I know it has to have. It can't just be a little novella about a dude catching a fish. That would never sell. Looking at you, Moby Dick.
Well, what's Catch-22 about?
So it is all about the war. I think it's World War II.
Yeah.
And point is, the main character, Yossarian, does not want to be in war. He does not like what's going on, and he wants to get out on grounds of insanity. But by asking for grounds of insanity, that shows he has the good thought to ask to get out of battle for that, so it makes him sane. So the only way to get out of war is to actively want to be in war, but that means you're already in war, thus the Catch-22. And then it just goes into talking about all the different characters in there, their different ways they approach the absurd world they live in. Probably my favorite character, Milo, one who bought eggs for 5 cents, sold them for 3 cents to himself, and made a profit. Ponzi scheme master. By the end of it, he owns a town.
He owns several towns.
Well, and an international trading fleet.
Yeah, that has been provided to him by the militaries of America and France and Germany.
I think he got both sides to pay him to blow up a bridge.
And also prevent that bridge from being blown up.
Yes, it's very all over the place at once. Which, I imagine just hearing about it makes it sound like it's just crazy and has no point. But it's definitely to illustrate how crazy the actual world we live in is. Because part of what makes it not so crazy is that it's totally plausible. It is entirely believable that this could be a true account. Aside from maybe the whole the Ponzi scheme thing. Ponzi schemes never work that well.
Or do they?
I guess. Maybe I just don't know about the really successful ones.
Well, I don't think you would.
I imagine the end goal of a Ponzi scheme is for no one to ever call it a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, fair enough.
Alright, what about you?
Well, Mother Night, the moral of that, as said by Kurt Vonnegut himself, is we are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful what we pretend to be.
Oh, I remember you bringing that up the other day when we were talking. That quote.
Yeah, basically this is a man who didn't want to ever really do anything. And he says that he'd only worked for the Germans because the Americans asked him to. But it doesn't matter because to everyone else, he was that horrible propagandist who said terrible, terrible things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's whether or not you wanted to be that, that's what you are because that's what you acted like.
Have you ever read read and or heard of the comic series Preacher?
I think I've heard it mentioned, but I'm not familiar.
I think I might have brought it up before. It's really good, by the way. I mean, it's definitely, loud and violent and all this other stuff, but it's got a good moral thing behind all of that. And one of, like, the small towns, the main character, the Preacher, is in, he meets a guy who constantly tells everyone, like, when asked, that he was a Nazi spy. Like, he didn't want to be part of things, but it was just a safe way. He could kind of, keep his head out of the line of fire, be out of, like, Germany in the middle of all of that bad stuff. And so and then eventually it was brought up that he was, in fact, a fairly high-ranking soldier and committed all bunches of war crimes. So that's kind of the opposite of that. He's trying to wear a mask of a better man and hide it.
Okay, that also sort of comes down to, like, trying to draw attention away from something by claiming something else.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, admit to a crime, like a really minor crime, so people think, oh, okay, that's the explanation. That's why, he's German and all of this in this era of history. And then they, gloss on and don't really try to dig in too much deeper. That idea of, we become the masks we wear, I suppose it could also be a good thing.
Yeah, like, to become a good person, you can just, like, act like what you think a good person...
till you make it.
Exactly, because if you're acting like a good person, then eventually, like...
Yeah, it'll stick. Well, I mean, that's what Aristotle thought, is, like, to be good, you have to practice good. And, like, if you practice good enough times, it'll just become second nature, and then that's who you are. Like, we're the summation of our actions.
And the reason I was having trouble picking just one book is because Sirens of Titan, also by Kurt Vonnegut, is this big, like...
Kurt Vonnegut, give us free stuff.
Yeah, he's dead now.
Just bum my whole day out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He's been dead a while. But anyway, the moral of that book is that all of human history has led up to, I think it was just like to get a part to an alien.
Oh, you told me about that.
So it's like everything was meaningless. Like there was no grand purpose in it other than to get a part to one dude. So take joy in the doing. It's like nothing really matters. Like we're gonna be dead far longer than we were ever alive. And nothing we can do can ever like last forever. So just do good while you can and enjoy doing it.
That sounds like a positive spin on nihilism.
A little bit.
But like instead of getting face-the-wall syndrome, also a World War II phenomenon, it's like a reason to get up and, live. It's like the reason is that there's no reason.
Face-to-the-wall syndrome is actually brought up in the play Rosmy's Universal Robots.
That's why I don't believe when people say, like, if they ever try to claim that they're nihilists. It's like, well, not really. Like, if you really were, then, yeah, you wouldn't be talking to me, you wouldn't be wearing pants right now. Or maybe you would. Maybe you just never took them off because you didn't care. Where do pants sit on the nihilistic spectrum? This is the ultimate question we've been building towards.
Yeah, we need to do some live reporting and go talk to someone.
Let's go. I really wish I were like Robin Williams, to go back to the Good Morning Vietnam thing, like where because I finally watched that last time I was home, like a couple weekends ago, and like how he was like, yeah, we're out here in the field, and then he just does all the different voices for people, but I'm not good at that.
Accents are hard, dude. Like
I can do a passable Rick Grimes impression. That's it. That's all I've got.
That and are you Sam or Dean?
Oh, I'm
from Supernatural.
I'm Sam, so I say Dean to Shad.
Okay, so Shad says Sam first.
Yeah.
However he says Sam, and you respond just by saying Dean.
Well, because like half of that show is just those two men loudly and masculinely yelling each other's names. It's a great show.
Yeah, it's truly the best bond two people can have.
Like brothers, only closer.
Cute.
Okay, you know that there are some weird fan fictions out there. How do we go from like actual literature to homoerotic supernatural fan fiction?
Pretty quick, actually, and we have the record to show us.
That's true. So this is for posterity now.
Yeah.
The de-evolution of what was attempted to be an intellectual conversation.
I just think we're bad at talking about things.
Potentially. But at the same time, people seem to enjoy it for some reason. It's interesting, the weird labyrinth we weave. Where's Pan?
That movie.
The one with David Bowie.
Is David Bowie in Pan's Labyrinth?
Yeah,
that's a Guillermo del Toro movie, right?
Oh no, I'm talking about like the live action one, like just Labyrinth. Okay, then yeah, it might be. Yeah, he's the Goblin King.
Is he the one who puts the eyes in his hands?
No, that's a monster thing. He's the Goblin King. He looks like David Bowie wearing a normal. I was gonna say a weird outfit, but it's normal for David Bowie. I mean,
they didn't even put him through costuming. He
brought something from home. They didn't even really want him to be the Goblin King. They wanted Sean Bean, but David Bowie just walked up and they were like, we can't get him to leave, so we might as well just start rolling. To continue this off tangent of where we started, what do you think of the Roadster getting shipped to space?
It feels really wasteful, but it's also really cool.
Elon Musk has successfully turned the odds of getting into a car accident in space from actually 0 to just essentially 0. It's an astronomically low number, but it's not 0 anymore.
Where is that car headed?
Mars. It's aiming for a Mars orbit with a standing contest. The first one there gets to keep the car.
Yeah, but at that point, it's gonna be all beat to hell.
Still, how awesome would that be? Just be like, yeah, this car went to space. Like, that is an important part of space history now, is the fact that some crazy South African dude decided that he wanted to shoot his car to the moon.
That's just so much money.
Oh, I mean, okay, the car was... I would admit that it was somewhat of, like, an advertising thing, but mostly they just needed a payload to actually test the weight-carrying capabilities of the rocket, which, in that case, it worked perfectly. I mean, other than that, it was just kind of like... having fun. You might as well ship something. I mean, there are worse things you can send to space. Though I also saw things people were laughing if that was going to be our first interaction with an alien species. Not like the golden records or all these other things we've been sending out trying to show, like, you know, the best and brightest of humanity's combined efforts. But no, it's a dummy listening to David Bowie in a space car. They find it.
Oh, is
like,
it actually playing David Bowie?
Oh yeah, they totally had it
Yeah.
playing Space Odyssey while he was blasting off.
Yeah. Oh man, that's great. Speaking of weird song choices, did you hear that after the Super Bowl? Like after most people had cleared out,
During the Philly riots?
as the stadium was mostly empty, they started playing the theme song from It's Always Sunny.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I know that somewhere the group was there, the gang. I don't know. I would have wanted to be in Philly during that whole thing.
No.
I would have. It was
No.
it was a good-natured riot
No, it wasn't.
for the most
They were
part.
burning things and looting.
Only a little bit. I actually, I saw some, total things. There was, a couple minor injuries, but no one got seriously hurt. They, torched, one car and smashed, one window. There was, one small single instance of looting. For a riot, those are great numbers. Especially in Philadelphia.
Well, yeah, but, when they found out they were going to the Super Bowl, that riot was also bad.
I'm not talking about that riot.
Yeah, but they riot all the time.
It's Philadelphia. What do you want
It's like
from
what
them?
I said before the game. No matter who wins this game, Philadelphia loses.
At the same time, they also kind of win because they get a lot of publicity for the city, and people are like, I want to go there and go get all up in that riot.
That or some people are just like, wow, that's...
Okay, Philadelphia is not a city you go to for, class.
Yeah, but it's the city of brotherly love.
And what better way to show that than a good old-fashioned loot and riot? I realized I had to add the riot because before that I was just thinking of the instrument. And then I thought of Road to El Dorado and him just dramatically looting.
Good old loot and berry retreat.
Is that show even still on?
No, it's been gone for a long
It
time.
is.
That was iCarly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, iCarly's been gone for a long time.
My favorite part of that was Gibby.
Gibby!
I always love in shows and stuff when they have a minor character that just, is just lovable enough that people are like, yeah, he's awesome, let's bring him back. And then he becomes, a mainstay.
Like Urkel.
Or Fonz. The Fonz.
Oh man, you're gonna jump the shark. He's wearing a leather jacket while he's water skiing.
That's because he's the Fonz. Also, you know the whole, A thing? Do you know that only came about because Henry Winkler refused to fix his hair on camera? He was people who, their characters fix their hair in a scene, as part of their character thing, he was like, that character is now a douchebag. So he's like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna be like, Fonzie is too cool to do that. He's like, I'm gonna go for it and be like, yep, hair's already good enough. Thus, Well,
thanks for joining us today. This has been The Last Tape with Tristan and Aaron. Tum-ty-tum-tum-tum.